Well, I don't know. We can get into it though, but I am kind of a fraud in a certain way.
Oh, that's a good place to start. In what way are you a fraud?
Because for my whole life, right? So Ridley Scott comes out with Napoleon. I'm a huge Napoleon fan. I have like a 20 by 20 hand painted. My friend painted me this whole portrait of Napoleon. I've read like probably 50 books, on the whole era itself.
Okay.
It's just like, I don't know. It's just my thing, right? And I just haven't seen the movie yet, so I'm very disappointed in myself.
Oh man, I went to see it in IMAX.
Yeah, but I heard it got bad reviews, and it kind of threw me off.
Yeah, people don't know what they're talking about.
Is it good?
I had fun.
Yeah.
It's weird. I mean, it's really weird. It's not really a biopic if you're looking to learn about Napoleon.
No, right.
I wouldn't necessarily go there for any kind of historical accuracy, but that's not what Ridley Scott cares about. So
it's basically like he turned it into a love story between him and Josephine, and I don't know. I never read that book, the letters that they write to each other back and forth. So I don't really.
There's a lot of letters.
Yeah, I know there's a ton of letters, but no one cares about that. Literally.
I mean, in the movie, there's a lot of letters.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's start the podcast. As you know, I don't know how to start the podcast. It'll either be a good discussion about Ridley Scott or something along the lines of Welcome to Late the Movies. My name is Ben Holt. This is a podcast where my friends and I get to fill in our movie blind spots. Each week we'll pick a film that either I or a guest or sometimes both of us hadn't seen before and really should have by now. This week, coming out on Christmas. It's Christmas in Connecticut. I think this is one of two options that we could have had to come out on December 25th. The other one is a slasher movie, and this is more of an actual classic Christmas movie, so it feels like probably the right call. Although the Christmas of it all, a little incidental to the action of the movie. We'll get into it. My guest this week, Left to Right Across Your Podcast Dial, Anthony's back. How's it going, Anthony?
Ben, everything is hunky-dory.
He just loved saying that.
No, hunky donkey. Damn it, I messed that up.
It's okay. No, if people will know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
that guy. I like that guy.
I have it written down.
Uncle Felix pops.
Yeah, no, I have a lot to say about him.
He's just popping up, and I mean, he's a Jack Warner favorite. Is that guy?
Yeah.
Jack Warner called him Cuddles.
Yeah. Why did in the opening credits? I noticed that. Why?
I don't know.
Because of his Hungarian personality.
He on SZ Sakal is the name of the guy who plays Uncle Felix. He's in a bunch of stuff. He's in Casablanca.
Yeah.
His rotund cuteness caused studio head Jack Warner to bestow on Sakal the nickname Cuddles. So there you go.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that makes sense.
That guy rocks.
He's the best character in this movie.
So I wonder if he like hated that nickname, but in every Warner Brothers movie he has to be credited as Cuddles, just because Jack Warner insisted. Anyway, Christmas in Connecticut. It's a 1945 romantic comedy, kind of screwball-y, not quite. It doesn't really have the patter of it. So yeah, romantic comedy. That's the way to put it, probably. Directed by Peter Godfrey. Starring Barbara Stanwyck, Dennis Morgan, and Sidney Greenstreet. We'll get into all that. That's just the quick bio, this quick CV for the movie we're talking about. Before that, though, Anthony, have you seen anything good recently?
Yeah, but I watched a ton of good stuff. I didn't see Five Nights at Freddy's in theaters, but I ended up watching it on just off of Peacock. I thought it was very good, but Willy's Wonderland was better to me.
Interesting.
I enjoyed that better, or more. I watched all of Fall of the House of Usher. I thought it was pretty good. I don't think it was as good as the other ones, but it was pretty good nonetheless. There's a great show on there's two great shows on Hulu. Season 5 of Fargo is phenomenal. John Hamm is the man. The guy's just an incredible actor. He has one of the best characters in that Fargo series. And there's another show called Murder at the End of the World, also on Hulu, that is very, very good. Stars Clive Owen.
Okay, I like Clive Owen. He's there's a minute there where he was like such a, anytime he's in a thing, it's like, whoa, who's this guy? And then
In demand, yeah.
I mean, he did The Nick, which I didn't watch, but apparently a really good TV show. But
in this show, he plays sort of like Elon Musk times Steve Jobs, Bill Gates type character. And then he brings all these people to a retreat in a remote part of he's like in Iceland or something like that. He's just like the super rich billionaire, and then people start dying, and then you figure out he's trying to cover something up. But the acting is really good. The lead actor is, I forgot her name, but she's English. She's really, really good in it.
Damn. Okay. Cool.
And no, on the Christmas theme, an excellent Christmas movie, and they're going to make a bunch of them. Violent Night with David Harbour was so good, and John Leguizamo. It was very, very funny.
Okay. All right.
I loved it.
Let's go. That's not the. There's a John Woo movie that's like in theaters now that also has like a punny name like that, but I can't remember the name of it. But John Woo's back. He's making movies that get, I don't know, it has like a 30 on Rotten Tomatoes or something. But it exists.
Yeah. What is that one called? Silent Night.
Oh, okay. So it's not even a pun.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It stars what's his face?
Yeah, that
Joel,
guy.
The guy from Joel Kinnaman from RoboCop and The Killing. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about all that.
No, I didn't see that. If I highly recommend Violent Night, it's very weird, but it sort of spoofs Home Alone. There's a cool Home Alone setting the trap spoof scene that is very, very funny. David Harbour's great in it. John Leguizamo's great in it, and it's just a stupid Christmas movie, but it's an easy watch. I really enjoyed it. All right,
cool. Yeah, that'll get added in my brain to a list that I really should write down because I always forget to do these things. But yeah, nice. That's great. Anything else?
It just came out on Netflix. It's it stars Julia Roberts.
Yes, and Ethan Hawke and Mahershala Ali.
Oh, what was that called? Yep, and Kevin Bacon.
I just looked this up because I was listening to a podcast and it's a Sam Esmail movie. He made Mr. Robot. And he's worked with Julia Roberts a bunch of times in the last few years now, because I guess she just works with Sam Esmail now.
Oh, Leave the World Behind.
Leave the World Behind, right. That I want to check that out. That's just on Netflix, so easy enough to get to. I mean, theoretically, before life gets in the way.
I watched it. It's really good, but it takes a minute to get into. And then I rewatched. I didn't rewatch the whole thing, but then I rewatched like the last 25 minutes of it. It's actually really good. It's very suspenseful, but nothing really.
Oh, happens. Interesting. That sounds kind of neat. I guess we'll find out.
Nothing really happens until like the very, very end, but the ending is the best.
I can believe that.
Highly recommend. And then what I sent you yesterday, I can't wait till summer for Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah, it's what, XLF? Is that what it is or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
They bring back the theme song. Taggart's in it. Judge Reinhold's in it. Oh, it's going to be awesome.
Christmas in Connecticut. Very quaint. I mean, it's a 40s movie, right? I had fun. I had never seen this movie before. I didn't know a ton about it. How about you?
I've never seen this movie before. I was just looking up classic Christmas movies, and this was on a lot of lists in the top 6, top 5, top 10. So that's why I pitched it to you, and glad you took it.
Yeah. I have a lot to say, I think, about it, which is good because we're only about 20 minutes into the recording, and so it's not all 20 minutes is going to make it. It never does. But before we get into it, we got to do a 1-minute plot summary. Do you have something prepared?
Yep.
Excellent. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. After helping Rick Blaine defeat Major Strasser, some members from the cast of Casablanca decided to spend Christmas in Connecticut. Liz Lane is a popular cook and magazine personality in America, unexpectedly forced by her publisher to cook a Christmas dinner for a war hero, Jefferson Jones. But Liz can't cook, doesn't own a farm in Connecticut, and doesn't have a baby. She's a fraud. Liz agrees to marry her stalker, John, who has a farm in Connecticut, and her uncle Felix will really be the cook. But Jazzy Jeff shows up 2 hours early, and they fall in love at first sight, much to John's chagrin. Hijinks ensue, and the ruse is up when Mr. Yardley, her publisher, figures out the baby isn't hers and fires her on the spot. Uncle Felix comes to the rescue, gets Yardley to hire Liz back, and plays matchmaker and gets Jefferson to fall in love with Liz. And just like everything else in 1945, they all live happily ever after.
Yeah. That pretty much sums it up. So if you haven't seen this movie before, we already sort of referenced this, but I was describing the plot to my sister, and she immediately picked up on sort of the central takeaway from me watching this without a ton of context going in, which is this is pretty much wholesale lifted the structure of most Hallmark movies about Christmas.
100%. But I think there's two messages though in this movie.
Women belong in the kitchen, and what's the second one?
Well, I think you can take this movie that way, and you can say, "Oh, it's 1945. We're winning World War II, so the men are away fighting wars. Women are in the workforce now. As everybody's coming back home, right? Things are going to go back to normal, and men are going to go back to work, and women are going to stay home. However, I think you can spin it a different. I think you can almost spin this movie a different way, that they're trying to portray. Here's a woman who's trapped by that mentality in society, but she has her own life. She has her own. She's not married. She's not confined to the kitchen or the home, but she has her own sort of like publication where she's writing about those things, but has none of them herself. So she is like in her own way, sort of like an independent woman. I don't know. And then they sort of like force her back into the box that they want to put her in. But I don't know. I thought maybe they were trying to send maybe a little bit of a different message that you don't really need to settle down.
Yeah, it's tough because the sort of tension of the movie is that her entire livelihood and way of life is threatened by just the idea that the public might find out that she isn't an expert homemaker.
Right.
So it is like, is that commentary, or is that just, it's tough to look at it through like 2023 eyes and be like, okay, do they know that this feels ridiculous and they're kind of making a joke out of that? Or is that just sort of like, oh yes, of course, those are the stakes. But I mean, to your point, so Barbara Stanwyck, who plays Elizabeth Lane, obviously is bumping up against a ceiling pretty aggressively and pretty uncomfortable with the sort of boxes everyone's trying to place her in. And towards the end of the movie has she yells at her boss, pretty much saying exactly that. Yeah.
But she's in on the roof, like her and not Mr. Yardley, but the other guy, Dudley. They both are in on it. They both are portraying this sort of like Susie homemaker mentality, but they knowing both of them, well, they both know that she's none of those things. Yeah, they're definitely perpetuating this impossible ideal of like the perfect wife, right? And it comes back to bite them in the ass a little bit. And at the end of the movie, does she have a job? Yeah, she gets paid double by Signor Ferrari, the owner of the Blue Parrot in Casablanca. I think you mean Mr. Gutman, the guy who's trying to get the Maltese Falcon in the Maltese Falcon. But yes, that's right. Yeah, that guy. What an early 40s for him. I'm just in banger after banger for Sidney Greenstreet. And then he dies. He dies in 1951. Yeah, he dies very soon after this sort of all heaters run. The guy, he was born in 1879. Yeah. Yes. I did appreciate, I'm assuming, I'm taking it as a reference. At one point, his character is referred to as the Fat Man, which is pretty much how he's referred to more than half the time in Maltese Falcon. So, right. Well, Warner at this time though, the movie studios are a lot different than they are today. So Warner Brothers own the right to these actors. It's not like he can't act for like a Paramount or whoever else, Columbia Pictures at the time. He has to only star in Warner Brothers films unless Warner Brothers either loans him out to another studio or another studio basically rents them. But you have to they own these actors at this time. That's why you always see these same set of actors in Warner Brothers films.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of the actors in Warner Brothers, so Dennis Morgan, who's the male lead of the movie, he wasn't named Dennis Morgan until he came over to Warner, and this was also a thing studios could do at the time. They were like, "You're named Dennis Morgan now."
Yeah. It's sort of like rebilling and try to make money.
He was at Paramount. He went by Richard Stanley, and before that, at MGM, he went by Stanley Morner, which is the closest to his actual name. His name was Earl Stanley Morner. The name Earl, not the title. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, where is he from? Yes. Wisconsin or something like that?
Yes, Wisconsin. Michigan?
Yeah.
Midwest boy. A year younger than Barbara Stanwyck in this, who is, I think the main people all get paid a lot in this movie, but Barbara Stanwyck, at least the year before, when she makes Double Indemnity, she's in 1944, the highest paid woman in Hollywood. A huge presence in film history that we haven't talked about before. Barbara Stanwyck I like her a lot in this movie. And like you said, she's playing this in like the nurse who pops up early in the movie. She's sort of doing the kind of really stereotypical, pretty retrograde view of like how women are behaving or whatever. But I feel like Barbara Stanwyck feels even within like the situations she's in, which are pretty shitty, she herself feels like it's still holds up pretty well. It's fairly modern take on it, I feel like.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. Mary Lee's the nurse, and you have to put a lot of, you got to give him the old Magoo.
You got to give him the old Magoo. Yeah, that jumped out to me real early in the movie. We should mention the first, so again, talking about Barbara Stanwyck, she's not in it till the first 10, 15 minutes into the movie. There's a shipwreck and then like a lengthy sequence of Dennis Morgan and a guy who seems like a main character in the movie just recuperating in a military hospital. And then that guy's not in the movie again after that, but he does talk about the old Magoo quite a bit.
Yep, which is basically just lying to women.
Yeah, so I thought we were being set up for Jeffrey Jones, Dennis Morgan's character, to sort of be like a cad who's also lying the whole time. And the movie kind of treats it like that at the end when she's like, well, you lied to me too. And then they're like, well, then I guess we're even. And in her defense, lying about a lie of omission that he, to his knowledge, is kind of engaged while he's flirting with Barbara Stanwyck. But it's not really on the same scale. It seems like he's kind of going to be a jerk who's like lying to women and telling them what they want to hear just to get what he wants. But that's not really how it plays out.
But in the beginning of the film, he says that that's not the right thing to do. He says something like, you're going to break a lot of women's hearts that way. And then the other guy says, well, the Magoo gets you in and the old Magoo will get you out. That.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I guess Dennis Morgan's like, that's not my normal nature. But to me, it's like, oh, now this guy's he's had a taste of the old Magoo, and now that he's not going back, this is going to be him from now on. But not really. I guess that it was just that one moment with the nurse.
And he also doesn't want to be engaged to Mary Lee. Mary Lee wants to be engaged to the other guy.
Clearly, because she ends up getting married to him.
So, I mean,
without telling Jeff.
It's everybody's everybody's old Magoo and everybody in this movie.
People are addicted to the old Magoo in this thing, man.
But I wanted to go back to your point earlier on Mary Lee about she's just trying to do the shtick of I'm just a damsel in distress looking for a husband. But Liz Lane, Barbara Stanwyck's character, she buys herself a mink coat. And she says, I made a promise to myself to buy a mink coat, and you should keep your promises, especially to yourself. To me, I took that as I made my own money. I'm going to buy myself a mink coat. This is what I do.
And she's,
you know what I mean? So like,
I was going to say like in 40s terms too, because she's, Barbara Stanwyck's in her, I think, mid to late 30s here, and it's not like she's playing younger. She feels like a woman in her mid to late 30s who has her own career and is really successful.
That's why I'm saying some of the reviews are a little too, I think they're a little too on the nose about, oh, this is a movie from the 40s and it has those same tropes of, here's a strong man coming to save, a lonely old woman. But I don't think it's necessarily that. I think Warner Brothers and the writer and director of this film they're doing two things. They're trying to have it both ways. Yeah, I agree, but they're also portraying a woman who's doing things on her own.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's like a kind of naughty issue, naughty with a K, and because on the one hand she is bucking against all of this stuff, but then on the other hand she does go along with it like pretty easily, and then you could also say, yeah, she doesn't really have a choice. She doesn't want to lose her job, and she doesn't. And she does kind of say like, then whatever, I'm just not going to do it. But then it's, well, the other guy, her editor is going to lose his job, and he's got like a family and stuff, and so she goes with it. And so she agrees to marry John. And that guy sucks. I like that it's just over the course of the movie. At first you're like, there's not really anything wrong with this guy. He sort of looks like a young Walt Disney, and doesn't have like a
does look like
and
Walt
he's
Disney.
Apparently very rich, and seems to like Elizabeth a lot and treat her well enough. But then as the movie goes on, he doesn't like do anything. It's not like, I feel like the sort of romantic rival character who is in pole position with the girl at the beginning of these movies. It turns out he's actually cheating on her, or it turns out he was lying about whatever. But with this guy, it just kind of turns out that he just sort of sucks. Which I think is really funny.
He's like her stalker. He's just, oh, you know how I feel about you. I've told you 4 million times.
I think about details. It's like, okay, dude, shut up. Shut up about buildings. You suck.
Yeah.
I like that
wait till you learn about the plumbing in this house. Can't wait to tell you about that.
He presents as like a fancy man. And so Yardley is like, oh, this guy's on my level. We can hang out and talk about rich people stuff. But even by the end of the movie, even Yardley, who's like, he sucks too. Even he's like, dude, just shut up. I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
And I think it's even him that says like, I know he's a bore, but like, if you can just go along with this. And I think he's using like BOOR, like this guy is the worst. But if you just go along with it, we can double circulation.
Yeah. Right. Because he offers him the home building section of the new magazine he's going to do.
He probably would be good at that, because it doesn't seem like he's bad at his job. It just kind of seems like he sucks to hang out with.
Well, I think he is his job.
And he's sort of putting, unnecessary pressure on his nice old Irish housekeeping lady.
Oh yeah,
Nora. Nora.
What's her name? Nora. Yeah. I love the rapport between her and Felix. It's like she's Irish, he's Hungarian. They're arguing over Irish stew. We add a little paprika to it, and you turn it into goulash. Yep. Genius.
Felix is the best. That guy rocks. I like that character a lot.
He's the best. It's the same character from Casablanca, Carl, the head waiter. He's the same guy.
So plot-wise, we already said this is essentially, if you've seen a Hallmark movie, you've seen a movie that rips off this plot. But yeah, it's very typical sitcom sort of structure also. Even though it's not as funny and bantery as a screwball comedy, I feel like a lot of sitcoms steal plot beats from screwballs, and this is another thing that gets stolen from. It's just people forced into a situation together, running from room to room, where there's a different misunderstanding happening in each place. That judge is weird, by the way. I like that he just rolls with going out the window.
Yeah. What kind of judge is this? It's like, oh, an easy exit, huh? I get you. I feel you. I pick up what you're putting down there, Sonny. I'll go right out this window.
There's
no
a
problem.
lot of things that he responds to as if like there's been a double entendre or there's an inside joke or there's a joke that I missed. And I think the dude's just weird.
Yeah, like when the baby's crying and he's like, "What's that, a baby?" And it's like, "Oh, a baby, huh? What's going on over there? Why is that funny?"
I don't know. That guy, maybe he's just having a good time. He doesn't get out of the house much. It's the most excitement he's had in a while.
It's like, I gotta go home and trim my Christmas tree, but don't worry, I only live right down the street. I'll be right back tomorrow.
Wait, what's this guy do? I guess it's Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, so it's not like he has to go to work. Obviously government offices are closed, so he doesn't have to go to work, but he shouldn't be this available as a judge. I feel like he shouldn't be this available.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that's fun is like, I don't know, maybe among like the elite, this is still a thing. And I think it kind of is, but it's just funny to be like, yeah, my boss is coming for Christmas. He's going to sleep over. Like this is a kind of thing that doesn't really exist anymore. Of just like, yes, we are having people over for Christmas. They will be sleeping over. They are not family.
Well, this kind of reminded me too of the Festivus episode of Seinfeld when Kruger comes over and like here comes Mr. Yardley and he's kind of like a Kruger.
Yeah,
you know
absolutely.
What I mean?
I liked a lot of stuff. I liked that cow. That cow seems nice.
Yeah, that was a funny part of the movie. I also had one very the camera was just shaking way too much. Like you can tell this is really 1945. They didn't invent the Steadicam yet.
It's weird because
I don't know if you noticed that, or maybe
yeah. It's definitely no. I mean, the first large scale Steadicam productions, The Shining, that's 1980. But like people could hold cameras well before that too. They're just, I think this is just not. So I mentioned Peter Godfrey's the director. If you haven't heard of him, that's like he's sort of a lot of these are just journeyman things. But I mean, there's so many movies being produced all the time. So Barbara Stanwyck has this. This is back when actors could retire. She has like a legendary career. She's in Hollywood for about 35 years and makes 83 movies because like that's the speed that they were working on at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's just that when they're in the restaurant with early on in the beginning when John's really trying to lay it on thick. If you just look at the glasses and like everything's just sort of like it feels like they're in an earthquake. The table's shaking, the liquid's all moving all over the place. It was a little distracting to me, but that's why I kind of like these old movies because the skill and the techniques they don't have all that CG and stuff like that, and obviously the green screen sort of not a green screen, but like just the fake painted backgrounds.
I like really backdrops. They're always good for me. All that to say, there's movies we've talked about already that predate this or come out around the same time that are by actual like people who aren't just seeing this as completely, this is an industry and we're making content, which is a term that we use more now, but that is how a lot of people were seeing it at the time. But this is, I mentioned Double Indemnity comes out the year before this. That also stars Barbara Stanwyck, but that's a Billy Wilder movie and he's a fucking genius, and that movie looks incredible and invented an entire aesthetic.
Yeah.
That's the movie that every noir is aping. That's the movie that invented Venetian blind lines over people's faces, which is the go-to shorthand for noir in any cartoon that's ever done a noir parody, right? So there are people who are thinking about this stuff as art. This is, a few years after Citizen Kane. Casablanca already comes out by this point. Maltese Falcon, another movie we've talked about, is already out before this. So there are people out there that are doing great stuff. This is closer to just like kind of a fun family movie, and it works. They make it for less than $1 million. It makes over $4 million by some counts, which is, if a movie would quadruple its budget today, that would be pretty incredible. So pretty successful.
Yeah, $1 million seems like a lot of money, though. to make the movie?
I think a lot of that's Barbara Stanwyck, if I had to guess.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah. You're not wrong, though.
That makes sense.
Okay, so is the money on the screen here? I think with the actors, it maybe is. But, yeah.
I'll tell you where some of that money went. That money went to the freaking tinsel on that tree. That tree was covered in garland and tinsel. Holy smokes. You can't even see the lights of the ornaments.
That's a tinsely freaking tree. That is, in a
that
lot
was too
of...
much.
A lot of the
tinsel.
Like what are the best Christmas movie lists? When this is brought up, it's mentioned like this is really Christmassy. There's a part with a really tinsely tree, so you know it is.
Save some of that tinsel for the war effort. My goodness, you know.
I feel like I was putting down Peter Godfrey a bit, but there are like a lot of actually legendary craftsmen who work on this too. Specifically, the gowns in this movie are in part designed, well, the Barbara Stanwyck's gowns, I should say, are in part designed by Edith Head, who is maybe like the most legendary costume designer of American movies.
Yeah, right.
I think for people maybe around our age or maybe even a little younger, the main point of reference for her is that's who Pixar-based Edna Mode in The Incredibles on.
Right. Yeah. Right. No, for sure. And I think the setting in the background, and just the overall aesthetic of the film, I think is excellent.
Yeah.
I think it hits the nail on the head.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you ever seen Double Indemnity? I've mentioned it a couple times now, and I love that movie.
No, I've never seen.
So that is, I watched that in college. Was the first time I watched it. And it was one of those things where you're like, oh, that's where this is from, because it's like the way noirs sound and look is just straight up Double Indemnity, and it's always fun to watch a thing that's like, oh, this is what everything is basing their shit on. I felt that way. So we did a couple weeks ago, It's a Wonderful Life, which I hadn't actually sat down and watched all the way through before. It's like, oh, I got all the references now.
With Jimmy Stewart. Yes.
Yay! We keep the streak of people doing Jimmy Stewart voices on the podcast alive. That movie rocked, by the way. It's also good. That's my go-to way to describe movies I like now, is that they rocked. I feel like saying things rocked went out of style maybe 15 years ago, but me on this podcast alone is bringing it back.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, it's your podcast and you're the host. You can say whatever you want about a movie.
The ease and immediacy with which Barbara Stanwyck falls in love with Dennis Morgan within half a second of seeing him.
Oh, it's over.
It's just over for our friend John, who she fully intends to marry. It's not like she's trying to trick John just to use the house. She is going to marry John. And then she sees Dennis Morgan and she's like, oh, this is what men can look like. I didn't know.
She's not trying to trick John, but Dudley is. And maybe they're on different wavelengths there.
Dudley, who's her editor, he's early on this guy just sucks train. He's there at the beginning of the movie. Everyone else catches up eventually.
But when Jazzy Jeff shows up, this is where the movie takes a turn, and then Barbara Stanwyck becomes I don't know how to flip flapjacks. I can't change a baby's diaper. I can't cook. I can't give a bath to a baby. I know nothing about cows. I'm just a helpless woman on faking my way through a farm in Connecticut.
Probably that's when the movie starts pretty much.
Yeah, exactly.
Because now you have then it becomes a romantic comedy, not just a lady who's in a shitty situation.
Yeah, and then it's like real hijinks of well, how can we? Oh, the judge is back. Oh, Felix, the baby ate your watch, and the baby's still alive. No way. We got to cut the baby open to get the watch.
That's quick thinking by Felix to fake that the baby ate his watch. And I love the reveal at the end, which I don't even know if it's supposed to be played for laughs as much as I laughed at it. With just that. The watch he claimed the baby ate was a massive pocket watch with a huge chain.
The size of his eye. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really funny that he comes out and he's like, look, it's fine. And I think Jeff or someone's like, the baby ate that. Good stuff. But yeah, it's fun. The pace could be a little faster for like maximum hijinks, but it's, it's an 80-year-old movie, so that'll happen.
It does drag a little bit.
I think when they go to the dance, I feel like you could do this all over one crazy night without going to the dance. And then like, I did like the setup and payoff. I think it was really funny. It was probably the best shot sequence in the movie, where the boss, Yeardley, the editor, sorry, the publisher, the rich guy, is made to think, or not made to think, but accidentally witnesses normal events that he interprets as some random ladies just kidnapped the baby.
Yeah, we have the Lindbergh case folded right
There's a
before our
great
eyes.
shot like over his shoulder as he's walking up the staircase, and then a reverse shot from a low angle looking up at him, looking like shocked at this lady who's just stolen this baby. That's really funny. But yeah, so that comes after the dance sequence where Barbara Stanwyck and Dennis Morgan end up having to spend the night in jail. And which, like, if you've been listening, you're like, that doesn't sound like a thing that happens in a Hallmark movie. Hallmark has smartly not included that in their other, loose spiritual sequels.
Yeah. But they get arrested. Are those people even cops?
It seems to be a citizen's arrest.
It's like, hey, you're under arrest for this sleigh going way off the rails here. It's like, and Barbara Stanwyck's like, oh, sure, I'll just get right in the back of this car, mister. No problem.
I think he is a cop because he does take them to jail and then bring them back home afterwards. But he doesn't present a badge. He doesn't read them their rights.
Nothing. Just, hey, you didn't get too far in that sleigh ride, did you? Hop in the back of this car. We'll take it right down to the slammer.
It's winter, and so he's wearing an overcoat. Maybe he's wearing a uniform under it. He's definitely not in a uniform, though. He's just a normal guy in normal clothes with an unmarked vehicle who arrests them and then drops them off the next time you see him. You don't see him in jail or anything. Meanwhile, the kidnapping thing has happened. And then they get back and they explain what's happened to the guy, and then he calls the whole kidnapping thing off. And it's sort of like, it was felt unnecessary, I guess.
That part could have been done without. But but going back a few steps, 2 points. First of all, who just shows up at your house like, oh, hey, I'm the mayor of this small town in Connecticut. We're having a dance tonight, and we'd like you to come. What do you say? Sure, no problem. We'll be right there. It's Christmas.
It's Christmas.
What are you talking
Eve.
about? You having a dance?
Yeah. I don't even think he doesn't describe it as like a Christmas dance either. It's just sort of like, yeah, this is the night we're having the dance. I know it's Christmas Eve. We didn't think of that beforehand. And that's not really the vibe, but it's like, know? I don't know. He describes it as sort of like, yeah, it's a town activity. I don't know. It doesn't seem specifically Christmas themed, I guess is what I'm saying, but maybe it's just a general celebration.
It's not, because they're doing like a Texas two-step and line dancing. They are line
dancing, but it looks fun. I don't know.
No, I know that was a bizarre point. And when the cops or the alleged cops drop,
goes on quite a while. There's multiple songs.
And how do you even know they were staying there? He's like, hey, I heard you have Jefferson Jones staying in your house today. Oh, you do? He's right here. Is this the young man? Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah, I think I guess you can credit it with just it's a small town, and I don't know. Speaking of small town, question for you. Is your impression from this movie that people in the 40s considered Connecticut to be some sort of like backwater farm place, or just that this specific vibe that this person was portraying was sort of this rustic farm vibe, but they still thought of Connecticut the way we kind of think of Connecticut, which is like mostly, insurance and businesses having their headquarters there because they don't want to have their headquarters in New York?
Yeah, I have. That's a great question. I think it just the phrase "Christmas in Connecticut" works, and they said, well, "All right, we'll stick with that." Because Christmas in Massachusetts doesn't sound too fun.
Treating it like, it's like Alabama or something. Nothing against Alabama, but my mind immediately went to like the movie Sweet Home Alabama, where it's sort of like, oh, it's someone from the city, and now they have to like rough it in this place, which to its credit also has plenty of population centers, but it's just like the cultural image of it. I more mean.
I think they were trying to go for like a romanticized New England trope.
Okay. Yeah,
like
that's
here's
fair.
a classic. Here's snow on the ground at a farm in a New England winter, right? But and Connecticut is very rural. We think of Connecticut as just 195 and Stamford and Bridgeport and Hartford, New Haven. But the western part of Connecticut is very rural. I don't know if there's a farm that size out there, but who knows?
Yeah, no, you're totally right, and like everywhere, because people need food, there are farms. there certainly are.
Right.
And hey, if people think that's what Connecticut's like, it's sort of Elizabeth Lane's fault, because that's what she's been writing, saying like, this is what I do. I go antiquing every weekend, and it's all like, cozy out here.
Right. Yeah. She's playing the ruse. Yeah.
They don't spend a lot of time on it, but it is really convenient that John is just like, oh, you need a farm in Connecticut that happens to also have really nice stuff in it and isn't just sort of like a working commercial farm. I have that. That's where I live.
Yeah. And Dudley's like, oh, you do have a farm in Connecticut. We could use that perfectly.
Yep. Although, never mind. That's not a plot hole. Barbara Stanwyck is like, yes, that's where I get all my information about farms, is I'm just asking John, like, what's this like on your farm? And then she's writing that into the column. So never mind, my bad. The movie's smarter than me.
Right. Yeah, but it's the point is still valid. Because in the beginning, they're like, oh, what are we going to do? Yardley wants to come and host Jefferson Jones. It's going to be great to sell articles. And they totally forget that John exists for a minute, and that he has a farm in Connecticut. Then they build this whole other plot point. Yeah.
Can you blame him for like forgetting John exists, or maybe just subconsciously trying to exhaust every option before they ask John for help?
Well, no, that's a good point too. Because Dudley's like, they want to fight each other in the beginning. He's like, yeah, you get out of
here. This guy sucks.
Why are you even in the house? How does John even get in? That doesn't even make any sense. He just walks right in.
Every movie we've done in the 40s features people just walking into other people's rooms and just having expositional conversations. It's really fun.
Dudley's like, oh, hey, John's here. Just walk. Your stalker's here. Just walk right in your house. No police detail, no restraining order, nothing. Here's John again asking you out for the 4 millionth time.
Not just asking you out, but full on proposing.
Yeah, let's get married tomorrow. Great.
Yeah.
Sounds like a plan.
Eventually she goes with it, so I guess John was right. And if it wasn't for this war hero dreamboat at exactly the wrong moment, happening to come a couple hours, not like 20 minutes, but a couple hours early, they'd have been legally married. If he had only come 90 minutes early,
2 hours early,
they'd have been legally married.
Yeah. If he not even 90 minutes, if he would have came 1 hour and 57 minutes early, they would have been legally married.
Vows. They were there.
Yep. The judge was going to stand right in front of that fireplace and light himself on fire.
I liked all the business of hiding people in different rooms. That felt very sitcom-y.
Yeah.
Felt a lot like
very Scooby-Doo.
Yes. Clue also I was thinking of.
Yeah, I was just thinking of Clue.
Scooby-Doo is probably an even better pull. But those obviously tonally have a lot in common too. But yeah, anything else we want to say about like the movie, the action of it, whatever, before we get into ratings?
No, yeah. One other plot point that was really annoying was when the cops brought them back home And he basically is laughing. He's like, "Oh, sorry for this this confusion here, Miss Lane. If we knew who you were, we would have let you go right away. You spent the whole night and you didn't figure that out 10 minutes into arresting them.
Their names,
but you let them stay in jail regardless. Yeah,
that guy."
And why do they? You can't let them off the hook just because they're rich. That's not right. They stole a sleigh and
they
horses.
Really did. They made no attempt to not steal that sleigh.
Right.
They're like, I guess we're stealing it. Oh, we just sat here, then the horse started moving. And then they're like, yeah, that was 4 miles ago, dude.
Yeah, right.
He doesn't say dude, but he does say like, okay, sure, but that literally it's been 4 miles. You could have stopped.
And he says, "Oh, the horses just took off without us. I mean, without us knowing, we didn't whack them or anything to get them moving." It's like, oh, okay, cool, no problem. The car I broke into, the gas pedal just hit itself.
Yeah, that excuse wouldn't hold up in court. But obviously, these people don't have to worry about anything like that.
Well, they would hold up in a court held by that judge. That's for sure. You'd be like, "Oh yeah, sure, no problem." Wait, a baby? Who would have thought?
That judge. Anyway. Yeah.
And also too, I think the end was pretty weak. I thought the ending was.
There's not a lot of comeuppance for anyone. So there's Felix.
No.
Felix is the only one who's like driving plot, and he's multiple times sort of making a distraction or coming up with a story, and then other people go with it because they realize, oh, well, he knows what's up. He's got our best interest, and so he makes up a story after Sidney Greenstreet, the publisher, Yardley, after he finds out what's actually happening, he's like, "Oh, you're fired then." And then Felix, not that long after, pretends as though the competitor magazine has made her an offer. So Sidney Greenstreet's like, "Oh, I'll double it." He goes in to talk to her about it. She yells at him a bunch, and he's like, "Then never mind." And then she comes out at the end after, in the same room, actually immediately afterwards, Jeff goes in because Mary Lee, the nurse, shows up. She tells Felix, but not him immediately, that she got married. So now the Dreamboat guy isn't engaged. Felix finds this out. He tells Dennis Morgan to go in there and like let her know that he's not engaged. She's not married. It's cool. They can be together. They get married immediately. Sidney Greenstreet turns to the camera and goes, "Oh, what a Christmas." That's the movie.
Yeah, and he has that weird, like, "What a Christmas."
Yeah, it's like, wait, you were just kind of an asshole. You don't get like the final jolly note.
The whole thing was so bizarre. And you are absolutely right. It's Felix is the only one in this whole movie that drives plot. He's the only one.
And I don't like just like going, and then here's what happens next. But I felt like there is all of a sudden like a bunch of knots in the plot. And so you kind of just have to be like, okay, here's what happens. And then the movie ends.
No, 100%. Yeah. And Felix cooks the way he gets Yardley to sort of repent the error of his way is he cooks him a bunch of kidneys.
People do not take no for an answer.
No, I don't even know if he even salted it. So
people
bizarre.
Are very demanding of anyone cooking. It's not just women. It's also Felix. Felix like, oh no, I made this. This is specially for someone. This is spoken for. And Yardley's like, but I really want it.
I really, really love a nice big hot bowl.
Oh, you wouldn't disappoint me, would you? That's something that the male lead, Dennis Morgan, says to Barbara Stanwyck when he's demanding to watch her wash a baby. And she's like, oh, I'd really like rather not, I'm hosting people downstairs. Like, it'd be cool to not do this. And he literally says to her, oh, you wouldn't disappoint me, would you? You're not going to disappoint me, are you? And it's like, Jesus, dude.
Yep.
It's fucking rude.
Yeah. Yeah, can you flip a flapjack there,
just
Toots?
one.
Come on, flip one for us.
There's a great shot of 3 of the men who stand up at the table who are so stoked to watch her flip this flapjack, including John, who knows she can't. And then Felix is standing behind them, just like crossing his fingers and praying at the same time. It's funny.
Yeah, it says a little prayer.
That dude's
but
great.
To your point, the only one driving the plot, the only one that has any expression on their face.
Yeah. And she miraculously flips the flapjack with her eyes closed. And it's a pretty good flip.
It's perfect. 8.5
She's
rotations.
really bad at it. There's a whole sequence where Felix is trying to show her how to do it. She is quite bad.
I watching that sequence too reminded me of like a I Love Lucy episode of her eating the chocolates or something like that. You know what I mean? I thought it was kind of funny.
Her messing stuff up is really good. Real quick back to Double Indemnity, because that's my other pull for Barbara Stanwyck, just of movies I've seen. She plays the femme fatale in that one, and it is sort of like the text for femme fatale. And even more so than Maltese Falcon, which is a couple years earlier, but the actual like noir-y, this is the lady trying to, convince a detective to kill her husband for the insurance money, but then she's going to turn him in and keep the money for herself. That's Barbara Stanwyck, like to a T. It is, and then she's all that to say, very different personality in this movie.
Yeah. I never seen Double Indemnity, but I don't know. I feel like there's two distinctly different actresses in this movie.
Yeah.
Even though it's the same character.
Because and then she, as the character, has to perform for these people repeatedly too. So.
You're right.
Anyway, in 1992, Arnold Schwarzenegger directed a direct-to-TNT sequel starring a lady I've literally never heard of, Diane Cannon, who I don't. Yeah. I'm sorry to this lady. Chris Christopherson is the dude, and not that old, but old Tony Curtis is the publisher type guy, but it's not print. It's a lady's a host of a TV show in which she's like, she doesn't actually make the food herself or whatever, but it's like a home cooking show kind of thing. Anyway.
The trailer, I know the movie's terrible, but the trailer doesn't make the movie look as bad as it seems.
It is still the only movie Arnold Schwarzenegger has a directing credit on. Is this for some reason?
I love Arnold Schwarzenegger. I would give that movie a chance just for him. Doesn't he have a small cameo in it?
As man in chair in front of media truck, uncredited cameo. It does not look good. I'm sorry.
I know. It has the potential though. The premise is the modern premise of the cooking show. I think can work. I would be interested to see the movie where it goes off the rails.
Richard Roundtree is a supporting character in it. He's fourth billed. That's Shaft! ! Shaft!
Oh yeah,
he's in that too. So, I mean, it's an interesting cast. I don't know.
No, Diane Cannon is she was married to Cary Grant
in the 60s. Yeah, this is a nearly 60-year-old woman starring in that movie. That's fine. I mean, Chris Christopherson probably around the same age, right? So they age up the characters.
She looks. If she's in her 60s in that remake in 1992, she does not look in her 60s.
I believe she's 55, born 1937. So
yeah,
55. I mean,
wow. She's still alive. She's in Ally McBeal.
She's got fucking Best Supporting Actress nomination for Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice.
Yep. And Golden Globe for Heaven Can Wait.
Okay.
Well, we're gonna have to do some homework here. Watch some of these films.
Yeah, you got a Golden Globe nom for Heaven Can Wait. Yeah, all of these career highlights, they end in the 70s.
Yeah.
And then in 1992, she's in the only movie Arnold Schwarzenegger's ever directed. So this is my bad. This is a person.
But Arnold, you gotta give him. He tried. You gotta give him some credit for trying. I love Arnold Schwarzenegger. Can't fault the guy.
So strange. Anyway, okay, yeah. So let's get to ratings on a scale of 0.5 to 5 on any scale of your choosing. What would you give Christmas in Connecticut? I forgot the name for a second. That's my bad.
I had really high hopes for this movie because it's highly rated. A lot of lists had it up there. I thought this movie was just average,
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give this movie 3.5 chicken Marylands out of 5.
I'm right with you in pretty much lockstep of like, yeah, I had high hopes. But then it's perfectly serviceable. I would say if you're going to use it the same way you would like a Hallmark movie or that genre, which obviously Netflix is also in the business of making movies like that now too. That is to say, if you want to throw this on in the background while you're doing your laundry or whatever, it's really good for that. But yeah, I'm also at the same score as you. I got to figure out my scale. I want it to be Uncle Felix related. And I am tired, so it's going to be 3.5 Uncle Felixes out of 5.
Nice. That's perfect. He's the only redeemable and like worthwhile character I think in this movie.
Yeah, I feel like we soured on the movie as we were talking about it more, but that's okay.
Yeah, but
I came into this thinking
plot,
3.5 was going to be my score. So, yeah.
The plot, I still think Inside Llewyn Davis is the worst movie that I've seen in relation to this podcast.
Okay.
I don't think this movie is that bad.
Yeah.
The plot just doesn't. It's too. It just feels too rushed and all over the place, and kind of doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, there's definitely ways it could be elevated that aren't too hard to think of.
Yeah, but
perfectly serviceable.
Yes, 100%. And it even today, if this was in color and on Hallmark, it would be this is exactly what I expect this to be.
Yeah. That's a great call.
Going back to the very, very beginning, all Jazzy Jeff wants is a steak and a baked potato and some asparagus with some hollandaise sauce. And this other guy comes in and he's like, I had the steak and today I ate chicken Maryland. And I was like, what the heck is that? I look it up. It's chicken and bananas.
Oh, God.
And it was like a classic dish in this time period, the 40s and early 50s, because bananas were a top 10 import into the port of Baltimore. It was like one of the top 10 imported things into the port of Baltimore. So Baltimoreans apparently love this dish of chicken and bananas.
Okay.
And I don't think anybody's eaten it since at least 1952.
Interesting. I've never heard of Chicken Maryland, obviously, aside from the moment that it's mentioned at the beginning. But yeah. Speaking of chicken, speaking of movies we've talked about recently, the sequel of Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget, is finally out. Are you going to watch it?
Oh, 100%.
Is
it in theaters?
No, it's just on Netflix.
Oh, if it's on, yeah, I'll 100% watch it. That was an excellent movie.
Yeah, I'm really curious. There you go. All right, dude. We've been stringing these episodes recently together with an overlying theme. I'm keeping it simple in Christmas month. For December, what is your go-to comfort watch that you throw on maybe repeatedly or just like that you throw on every couple years during the holiday season?
For me personally, I think I can watch Home Alone over and over and over again, like a million times. The setting the trap sequence is my favorite sequence.
Yeah, I don't think anyone said Home Alone yet, but that's a great answer.
Maybe any movie. So that one, I can't stand A Christmas Story. I'd never want to watch that again.
Okay, good. We can keep doing these then, because that's the right answer.
My girlfriend's family loves the movie White Christmas, which we could have done as a classic.
Yeah.
So I watch that every year too.
Never seen it.
It's different.
I've definitely seen like clips of it. I feel like in school or whatever, sometimes they just show as a movie, like, you know, the week before Christmas when you're not doing anything anyway. Yeah. And in a music class, I've definitely seen a small part of White Christmas, like in elementary school, but never the whole movie.
Yeah, it's got Gene Kelly and
sure.
It's definitely a classic film, and it has a commercial now plays that song "Sisters," and that's what that's from. Rosemary Clooney.
Okay, cool. Well,
isn't it? Yeah,
that's a good answer. I've tried to pick a different one every episode, which has been kind of. obviously it gets harder as we go. But oh man, might have gone with Home Alone if I still had it. Is the second one set in or around Christmas time? I know it's in New York.
Lost. I don't know. Is it Christmas time?
I don't know.
Home Alone 2.
I know Donald Trump's in it, which feels Christmassy, but yeah, I just like I kind of want to, you know what?
Yeah, it takes place during Christmas.
I'm going to plug this is to make this month a complete Ouroboros, to eat our entire own tail. I'm still thinking about how much I enjoyed Black Christmas. That was the first episode we did this month. It was a new watch for me. I've talked to a few friends who are like big into horror, who have all been like me. Oh, I've heard about that a lot. Never gotten around to watching it. If you like horror at all, that Black Christmas movie really surpassed the expectations of me and the people, Sam and Bree, who were both on that episode. That movie rocked. I ended up getting the Shout Factory 4K. It was on like a really deep discount. It's got several hours of bonus content on it. So I'll be checking that out. You don't have to actually buy it though. It's also, I think, just on Peacock and a couple other services that you might already have. I think it's like 90 minutes long and it's really good. So worth a watch.
Yeah, no, I've never seen it, but it has Andrea Martin is in it.
Yes. Yeah, and she looks the same. She looks the same. It's just her in the 70s, so she's younger, but there's no mistaking Andrea Martin.
Right.
We talk about that in the episode because it comes in and it's set at like a college sorority, and you're like, oh, I guess that person in the background, maybe that's Andrea Martin, and then it gets to her, and you're like, oh wait, nope, that's her.
Oh yeah. Well, she's also in she's in Only Murders in the Building.
Oh, I didn't know that. Good for her.
Yeah, she's in the newest season.
Quietly in a kind of amazing, prolific, prominent career in a lot of different, and I guess in TV now, prolific. Movies, obviously, and so many Tony Award nominations for her stage work too.
Yeah, great character actress, great bit actress.
Yeah, she's really good in Black Christmas.
Yeah. No, I never seen that. I'll check it out.
It's really good. It's credited, at least in North America, for starting slasher movies. It's considered like the first slasher movie. So. By a lot of people, there's a debate, but it's one of the movies that's in that debate. All right, dude. Well, thanks. Go ahead.
One thing I'll never do is spend Christmas in Connecticut.
Yeah, I don't know if this is going to be on a constant rewatch cycle for me. But I'm glad to have gotten another movie that ends up on a lot of these lists off of my list of movies to watch.
Yep. 100%.
All right, cool. Well, Anthony, thanks for being here. Thanks for podding as always.
No, thanks a lot. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. You can find our stuff on Linktree, linktr.ee/late to the movies. And, is there even like a line to pull from this? I don't know. Uncle Felix is great.
My kidneys are done. My kidneys are ready. I got to go eat them.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, let's go eat some kidneys.